Great. Well, welcome everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for our third and final episode of our Salmon Way series. And today's episode is called Go Fish. The song that you heard when you joined us here was called Bring the Salmon Home by Mary Garvey, who's based down in Washington State. And Mary's a longtime performer at the Fisher Poets Gathering in Astoria, and you can find more of Mary's songs if you look her up on YouTube. So big thanks to Mary for sharing her beautiful voice and song with us today. My name's Elizabeth Harandeen, and I'm joining you from Tlingit Ani, the traditional lands of the Tlingit people, where I live and work in Juneau, Alaska for the nonprofit advocacy organization Salmon State. And Salmon State's mission is to ensure that Alaska remains a place where wild salmon and the people who depend on them continue to thrive for generations to come. And I just want to give a big thanks to our co-host, Braided River, as well as our many community partners that you saw on the slide when you joined today. They really helped us get the word out, are just incredible partners in our work to protect Alaska's wild salmon. And I also just want to give a big thank you to Amy Gulick, who you're going to be hearing from shortly. You know, Amy's really been the vision and the passion behind this project, and has just been for many years helping us celebrate Alaska's salmon way of life and sharing that with people all over the country. So really grateful for Amy. If you're not familiar with her, Amy is a photographer and author of several award-winning books, including her newest book, The Salmon Way, and Alaska's Salmon Way of Life. Also the author of Salmon in the Trees, Life in America's Tongass Rainforest. So really incredible books. We're going to be digging into the Salmon Way here for the next 30 minutes or so. And today, Amy's going to take us to Southeast Alaska, explore the theme of connection with John Yeager, who will be our special guest today. And John runs a sport fishing guide business with his wife, Brenda, down in Wrangell at the mouth of the Stikine River, one of the major transboundary rivers in Southeast Alaska. And John and his wife are longtime advocates for protection of the Stikine and other transboundary rivers in the region. So really, really honored to have him with us today. After their conversation, we're going to get a special presentation from Crystal Worl. She's a Tlingit Athabascan artist based in Juneau, where she's a co-owner of Trickster Company. So she'll be sharing with us her connection to wild salmon and how wild salmon inspires her and her really incredible art. So really, really excited to have her with us today. And before we hear from our special guests, we invite you all to share in the chat, as we have in our other episodes. Just share in the chat, who does wild salmon connect you to? And this can be a specific person that salmon connects you to. It could be more general. There's really no wrong answer, but we just invite you to share in the chat, who does wild salmon connect you to? So just something to think about over the next 30 minutes. And I'll kick it off and share that when I think about wild salmon and what they connect me to, I think about my ancestors. I think with salmon, the sacrifice that they make through their own life cycle really makes me think of those who have come before me, and just all the sacrifices that my ancestors have made over many generations to give me the life that I have today. So again, share in the chat, who does wild salmon connect you to? Some quick housekeeping before we jump in here. At the end of the episode, we'll be giving away a few salmon-inspired prizes if you signed up, if you pre-registered to attend. So stick around for that. Unfortunately, due to limited time, we won't have a chance for questions, but please use the chat to share questions that come up or any thoughts, things that emerge for you as you hear these conversations. So please use that chat and share if you'd like. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Amy.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. And hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I'm Amy Gulick. I'm author, photographer of The Salmon Way, an Alaska state of mind. I'd like to acknowledge and thank the Snohomish and Coast Salish for stewarding their current and ancestral homelands where I make my home in Washington State's Salish Sea. I'd also like to thank the salmon for bringing us all together today. So I am going to jump right in here, share my screen and share some stories with you. So what inspired me to make my book, The Salmon Way? Well, I've always been curious to know what it's like to have a relationship with wild salmon. And there's no better place for this than Alaska, the salmon state with more than 20,000 streams, rivers, and lakes where you can still find wild salmon. So I traveled all over the state to the homes, boats, and fish camps of the salmon people. I learned that there are many different ways of life that salmon allow people to live. And yet, regardless of where people live and what their salmon relationship is, I learned that they all have a lot in common with one another. Wherever I went, to Bristol Bay, fed by 9 major rivers, to the rainforest of Southeast Alaska, to the immense Yukon, Kuskokwim region, Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, and the interior, I was struck by the generosity that all of the salmon people showed to me, a stranger in their land. I always seemed to leave with salmon in my hands and lasting friendships. I asked everyone I met the same question: what is your relationship with salmon? Well, guess what? It didn't really matter if the people I asked the question to fished for their food and culture, fished for their livelihood, or fished for fun. Everyone gave me the same answers: family, community, culture, well-being, connection to a home stream, and a valued way of life. And so I made my book to celebrate that Alaska is still a place where the salmon way is a way of life, and to share the heartfelt stories of the salmon people connected to one another by these remarkable fish. So who do wild salmon connect me to? To my best self. When I'm around wild salmon, I'm filled with gratitude and respect for the fish, where the fish live, and the life they bring to animals, plants, and people. Salmon also connect me to a passionate community of people working tirelessly to ensure that Alaska remains the salmon state. So who does salmon connect you to? Please share with us in the chat. So our first guest today is John Yeager, who shared his salmon way of life with me. And I'm very grateful that he allowed me to share his story in the book with all of you. So before we hear from John, I'd like to read a passage from an essay in the book entitled Go Fish. The small town of Wrangell fringes the tip of Wrangell Island and serves as the gateway to the Stikine River. Flowing 335 miles from its headwaters in British Columbia, the mighty Stikine empties into Southeast Alaska, just a 10-minute skiff ride from Wrangell. The river is home to all 5 species of Pacific salmon, and the rich ocean waters it feeds are sheltered from the rugged outer coast by thousands of lush forested islands. It's a good place to catch salmon, but that doesn't mean it's easy. My relationship with salmon is like a marriage, says John Yeager, sport fishing guide and owner of Alaska Charters and Adventures in Wrangell. Most days are great, but some days we just don't click with each other, he says with a laugh. On this day, John has agreed to let me tag along on his saltwater fishing charter. We board the Timberwolf, John's 35-foot boat. He loads ice into the fish holds, prepares the gear, and brews coffee for his clients prior to their arrival this morning. The boat is spotless inside and out, no doubt a habit carried over from years in the Coast Guard operating marine vessels. But it's more than that. I'm not so much trying to fill the freezers of my clients. I'm trying to fill their minds with memories, says John. There are many firsts on this boat. First time in Alaska, first time catching a salmon, or first time fishing with a grandchild. I like that I can provide those experiences that will stay with people forever. John's guests for the day arrive, Jeff and Deborah from Texas. We motor south, dwarfed by emerald walls of conifers as we weave our way among islands of trees. John idles the boat and readies the trolling gear, fishing rod with a lure and flasher set in a holder on the side of the boat. He runs the boat at a slow speed, all the while trying to mimic bait and entice a salmon to bite. Bald eagles soar overhead, ravens croak from deep in the forest, and the shiny round head of a harbor seal pops up and inspects us with its big dark eyes. Along the shoreline, blasts of mist, the spouts of humpback whales shoot up into the overhanging trees, and giant dripping flukes slip into the sea. The sightseeing is interrupted as the fishing rod bends hard. John positions Jeff on the back deck and coaches him to slowly reel in the catch. The fish is strong, in its prime, and resists the line it's tethered to. As Jeff inches the fish closer, it shimmers just beneath the surface of the water. It's a beauty, a large coho and its ocean skin of bright silver scales. Jeff gives a long pull on the rod, and like a choreographed dance, John lowers the net, and together the two men gracefully lift and land it on deck. Deborah snaps photos of her smiling husband holding his catch. The relationship between guide and guests strengthened by salmon. The salmon will go home to Texas with Jeff and Deborah, who will invite friends and family to a special gathering to share the gift of Alaska's waters. Each bite will evoke memories of misty islands, mountains rising from the sea, fish on the line, whales near the boat, and memories of the guide, a good friend who made it all happen. So let's all give a warm welcome to John Yeager. John, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Amy, for having me.
So John, who does salmon connect you to?
Well, I'm very fortunate in that over the years that I've lived in Alaska, salmon have connected me to a wide variety of people, and they've taught me so much about salmon and what salmon do for all of us that it has made me a better advocate for salmon. I feel it's been a very great experience, and I'm continuing to learn.
Mm-hmm. Who are some of the people that salmon have connected you to?
Well, I have to say, first and foremost, family. Salmon have given me a greater connection to my children, to my wife Brenda's family, and the introduction of a salmon way of life was given to me by her family. Being from Ohio, we didn't have that there, so I'm very grateful to the family that welcomed me when I came to Alaska.
Mm-hmm. And you did, we could talk a little bit about your background in Ohio. You told me that your family owned a grocery store. So when you wanted food, what did you do?
You just went in and got it. It wasn't a problem. So the lifestyle of coming here, where we got in the boat, we got the gear ready, we went up the river, or we went out in the ocean and fished. It was a new concept for me. It intrigued me a lot, and then the rewards of your efforts were just they were just tenfold from what I experienced living in Ohio, and I knew at that point that was the lifestyle that I wanted to live.
Beautiful. So you've mentioned that you're trying, your goal with your clients is to create lasting memories for them. Could you tell us about some of your strongest memories that you have with salmon, or experience of fishing for salmon?
I have to say that my strongest experience and memories come from the Stikine, and being on the Stikine River, and all it has to offer. If you just look and listen, it'll teach you, and it will show you what to do and what not to do. And so to have that in our backyard, so to speak, and accessible, and to have that family connection up there on the Stikine, and the understanding of catching the salmon, and what it means to have the family involvement, and my children involved with that, because that's where the story and where the relationship, it has to continue in that manner, through our children and our friends, and hopefully we I say myself and more in general that I hope I have taught them well enough and have taught them the right things to carry that on, and those traditions of being on the Stikine and getting the sockeye and smoking it and canning it and putting it up for winter. That's such an important thing, and a part of our lifestyle that I hope I've done a good job in that regard.
For folks who aren't familiar with the Stikine River, could you tell us a little bit more, just what that river's like? This is a major transboundary river. This isn't a little stream, but if you could talk just a little bit about, I just my own experience being on the Stikine, the mouth alone of that river is daunting
It's a very large river. It's the largest, it's the fastest free flowing navigable river in North America. And it has a very large delta that is not buoyed or marked with aids to navigation because it's constantly changing. So it takes some skill to navigate through the delta to get up to the main portion of the river. Hats off to my wife, Brenda. She's a much better driver than I am. So, but she's also been born and raised here. So she's kind of got an edge on me there. But the river is just, it's tremendous. It's wilderness. It's vast. It's the glaciers, the waterfalls, the wildlife. It just oozes life up there. Every time you go up there, it's never the same. It's always spectacular.
That's great. There's a beautiful story that you share in the book where you talk how you feel about king salmon, also called Chinook, for people who may not know. I'd like to read just a little bit of that right now for our viewers. And you say, when I hear people say Chinook, the word is spoken with such meaning, promise, and commitment. It's probably the most revered salmon up and down the coast. I put the king salmon on a pedestal as my favorite, most challenging, and most rewarding fish to catch. When my family catches a king, we're so thankful. We give some to my wife's parents and to an elderly lady we know, and then we share the rest together. We've done the job the fish wanted us to do with it. That's important. If you're going to take its life, take it for the right reason and use it the right way. That fish fed my family, my in-laws, and my elderly neighbor. It taught my kids how to share and how to look out for other people. It's not just the sustenance of the fish, it's the spirit of the fish. Could you just talk a little bit more about the spirit of the fish and why this is important to you?
For me, I feel that salmon, and all salmon, but we're highlighting the king salmon, and it is my favorite. They have an indomitable spirit, and when you hold that king salmon in your hands and you feel its heartbeat in the palm of your hand, and you're holding the tail of the fish supporting it, and you feel the strength of its body and its tail in your hand, and then you look into its eye, and to me, salmon have hope in their eyes. That's what I see. And I often think about, when I'm holding this king salmon, I think about my own spirit. Do I have the drive? Do I have the determination in my own spirit that this salmon does that I'm holding? And I often question myself, am I good enough to be in the same company? Because it is such a remarkable thing to have right there and it's such an intimate kind of experience with that salmon that you can you learn a lot from just moments of having it in your own hands and by the sense of touch and feel. That's what that spirit means to me.
Oh, it's beautiful. And John, what are your hopes for the future for salmon in Alaska and the way of life that salmon allow you to live?
My hopes are that our salmon, that we can be better stewards for them, for the environment, for their life, and what they bring to us. And they want us to learn. They want us to stay on top of it, and they want us to stay, on watch and help. And I think that the more that we can do that, I think the more will be beneficial to them, and the salmon, they're always benefiting us, whether it's through food or the environment or helping with the nature around us. They're always helping us, and so we just need to learn how to help them better and be better at it. And so I hope that we can become better stewards that I can keep teaching and showing people the right way. And hopefully I won't quit learning. There are people that I am fortunate enough to be around that know way more about salmon than I, and keeping an open mind is very, very important. And I really, I respect what people have to tell me and what they have to teach me.
Well, great. John, thank you so much for being here. Really, really appreciate you sharing your salmon way of life.
Thank you, Amy. Really appreciate the opportunity.
And our next guest is our featured artist, Crystal Worl. Those of you who live in Juneau, you have very likely seen Crystal's work around town. Those of you who are not familiar with her work, you're in for a real treat. So please welcome Crystal. And Crystal, thank you so much for being here.
Hello. Let's get this started. First one, I want to introduce myself. Ka kia yuchat duasok. Ich ayat lukahadi nahatsiti. Athna dakahidi ehit. Shanguhidi yadi ayat. Gonana nahatsiti. My Tlingit name is Ka Kia, and my English name is Crystal Worl. I am Tlingit Athabascan from Juneau and Fairbanks, Alaska, and I'm really grateful to be here. So thank you for having me. I wanted to answer the question, who does salmon connect me to? I am from the Tlingit clan, which translates to the Sockeye clan. I have a tattoo here of the salmon sockeye, which is also this image that's depicted here. Salmon connect me to my family, in particular, my grandparents on both sides of my family. My dad's side is Rosita Warl, and she had a lot of cultural training in our upbringing, and a part of that was learning how to respect the animals that we harvest and not waste any part of the salmon, and also that we share every part of the salmon with our community, our clan members, and those around us that care for us or can't afford to care for themselves. We care for them by sharing salmon with them. On my mother's side, I'm Degaton Athabascan, and my parents are Rudy Dementif. My grandparents were Rudy Dementif and Alice Dementif. And my grandpa Rudy, he would build a fishing wheel. He built a cabin, a cache house, and a boat for him and his 10 kids and his wife. And they would go out fishing and hunting because they didn't have any money, but everything that they had was he would build and he would fish and provide for him and all of his kids. And my grandma Alice, she knew how to prepare and cook a salmon in over 100 different ways, which I'm working on learning how to do those. Another thing that salmon connects me with is the land. If you think about the salmon and how far they bring nitrogen from the deep ocean to bring us this beautiful forest, and then the nutrients that it gives the bears that I'm fishing beside, the wolves, the ravens, and then my family, it's a beautiful process, and it affects my artwork. It influences, what I paint and how I paint it, how I feel when I'm painting. A lot of my pieces are taken from experiences when I'm out fishing on the boat with my uncle or my aunties. I'll be out there, I'll be absorbing not just the fresh air and like getting really great exercise, but it's also affecting my experience studying these animals and these salmon, and holding them and touching them and giving thanks to them is, I feel like painting them as an extension of giving thanks to them and sharing my gratitude for everything that salmon gives my family and my community. This is a piece that I created with silver that I caught and I tanned it. I've also done a lot of fish skin tanning and looking at how we can use the salmon to incorporate it into our regalia or everyday wear. In this situation, this was more the theme of the pandemic, how I can harvest sea life and use it as masks. Of course, these are not utilitarian masks. This is my most recent piece that I did. It's the mural commemorating Elizabeth Pratovich. And I'm super proud that Elizabeth Pratovich was also a clan member of the Tlingit clan, the Salmon Sockeye. So when you go out and see this, if you're in Juneau, you'll see that Elizabeth Pratovich is a figure here. Behind her is the raven, which is our moiety, and the Salmon Sockeye, which is to the right, is our clan. So I'm super proud to be a fellow clan member of Elizabeth Pratovich. Also, if you walk downtown Juneau, you'll see in front of Heritage Coffee, this says Hafatzim, which is strength of mind, body, and spirit. I decided to do salmon because in my mind, they are one of the strongest, most smartest being on the planet. They're made of pure muscle and they help us build strength and muscle. So thank you very much for having me. And I'm super honored to have done this and be here with you all. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Crystal, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Crystal. Thank you, John. I feel like we just barely scratched the surface and just so much, hopefully just in this conversation over the last 30 minutes, just, gives us all so much to think about and reflect on and hopefully share and carry on in our conversations with others, and just again, thinking about this theme of connection and, just all the different connections in our own lives and how salmon feeds that either directly or indirectly. So thank you, John and Crystal, again for sharing your stories, your art, your passion. I know that's what keeps me going in this work. So thank you all. We're going to wrap it up really quick here, just being mindful of time. Last call for, please share in the chat if you feel inspired to share, what does wild salmon connect you to? Who does wild salmon connect you to? Again, it can be specific or broad. There's no wrong answer here. And thanks to those of you who did share, it's really beautiful to see just sort of this big community that is created through our connections with salmon, and just, I think, speaks to the power of wild salmon. So also a quick request to, if you haven't already signed Salmon State's pledge, we invite you to do so. I think it might be somewhere in the chat. If not, it's about to be. There it is. And thanks if you've already signed this pledge. But I think this really echoes what John was saying earlier about, us all being better stewards for wild salmon. And, part of any relationship is just reciprocity. And wild salmon give us so many things, and how can we give back? And signing this pledge is just a way to recognize that relationship and reciprocity that we have with wild salmon. So please sign that. I will say we are going to send out an email to all the attendees from this mini series with the recap of sort of what we've covered, who you've heard from, as well as some of the specific places where Salmon State's working to save Alaska's salmon and salmon way of life, and we'll provide specific ways you can support those different campaigns, learn more, and get involved in the work that we and others are part of. So more information to come in your inboxes. And we'll just now close with our raffle winners. So we've got 3 prizes that we're going to give away to folks who signed up in advance. And a big thanks to everyone who signed up in advance. But our first winner is going to receive a signed copy of Amy's book, The Salmon Way. And Amy is going to announce our lucky winner.
Let's see, the winner of the Salmon Way book. I hope I say this right. Evan Yeager, Y-A-Y-I-T-R.
Okay.
And we'll be in touch with all the winners.
Yeah, we'll be reaching out to all the winners directly and figure out the best way to get you your prize. So we'll be emailing you soon. Our second winner is going to get a signed copy of Hank Shaw's newest cookbook called Hook, Line, and Supper. Highly recommend it if you don't have this cookbook in your kitchen. It's pretty incredible. And the winner of that prize is?
Winner of the cookbook is Shannon Easterly.
Okay. Great. And our third and final prize is a super comfy Salmon State hoodie. And the winner of that prize.
Winner of the hoodie is Joe Ellen Arnold.
Awesome. Great. Okay, we'll be in touch with our winners to coordinate shipping and getting you your prizes. We did get requests after our last episode, people interested in purchasing the Salmon State hoodie. I'll say it's not available for purchase yet, but we will definitely let you all know for when we were able to sell those online. So yeah, we're glad folks are excited though about them. So with that, we're going to sort of wrap things up here. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, a big thank you to John and Crystal for taking time out of their busy schedules to be with us and to share their incredible stories. And, we'll let you know if we decide to continue this series into the future. We'll definitely keep you posted so that you can be part of those events too. So with that, we will end there. So thanks again. And thank you, Amy, for making all of this possible. So we really appreciate you.
Life is good on Steamboat Slough. You're born just knowing what to do. Build a boat and find a crew to bring the salmon home, yeah, home. Bring the salmon home. We know where they like to mate, where they like to congregate. We're in no hurry, we can wait to bring the salmon home, yeah, home. Bring the salmon home. Lars will cook and Pat will sing. Elmo does most everything to set the gill nets in a ring to bring the salmon home, yeah, home. Bring the salmon home. From the seine or off the hook, the spring, the coho and chinook. From every pool, every nook, we'll bring the salmon home, yeah, home. Bring the salmon home. Pack the ice and stow the gear. It wants to rot so quickly here. We'll make it last another year to bring the salmon home, yeah, home. Bring the salmon home. Grab your jackets, clear the deck. The engine needs another check. A storm is coming, what the heck? We'll bring the salmon home, yeah, home. Bring the salmon home.